The topic says that the only way to reduce crime is to increase the severity of the punishments. And this is what we are going to discuss in the group. And I, as a participant, I'm going to present a monologue as to what would my points be if I were a participant in a group discussion, the topic of which was that the only way to reduce crime is to increase the severity of punishment. Now, this is what the topic says. Firstly, does is it logical? Is it a logical thing to say that yes, the only way to reduce crime is to increase the severity of punishments? So, if you increase the severity of punishments, then basically the rate of crime would dramatically go down. And if I were to open this argument, I would say ostensibly, which means apparently, the argument sounds good, suggesting that severe punishments would deter people from committing crime. But again, as I always say, what kind of crime does the speaker have in mind? Are all crimes equal? Is a theft equal to rape? Is a defamation act equal to murder or assassination? If the severity of crime keeps on changing, then also you will have to change the severity of the punishment. So for the most severe crime, you can have the most severe punishment. For minor crimes, you may not have severe punishments. So the topic itself is not very clear. It says to reduce crime, you have to increase the severity of punishment. He says the only way to reduce crime is to increase severity of punishment. But is severity of punishment the same for all kind of crimes? If that is the case, then yes, we can say any kind of crime you will get severe punishment. But to make the argument convincing, we have to answer the question, should or should not the severity of punishment commensurate with the severity of crime? That means, should not the severity of the punishment be proportional to the severity of the crime? What sort of punishment, or rather I would say, what sort of severe punishment can we think of for a crime that is as trivial as a minor theft? A theft is a crime, but what kind of severe punishment can we think for such a crime? If severe punishment is a society's answer for all criminal activities, then what about rehabilitating criminals, right? Because every society, every civilization, every cultured society, cultured people, they talk about rehabilitating criminals with the intention of making them better citizens. So on the one hand, you talk about rehabilitating criminals. On the other hand, you talk about increasing the severity of the punishments. How can these two aims go together hand in hand? So this is what the argument says. So on the one hand, we want to be just, and I think a harsh punishment for a minor crime would not be a just verdict. And also we talk of rehabilitating criminals by giving them right environment, and a severe punishment for a minor crime would never create a right rehabilitating environment. It would rather create vengeance. So on the one hand, you want to be just, you want to be magnanimous, you want to be forgiving. At the same time, you want to reduce crime by increasing severity of punishment. Paradoxically, on the other hand, we want to reduce crime by increasing the severity of punishment. How can these two aims go hand in hand? Moreover, will severe punishment root out all the criminal activities and make society crime free? The last question perhaps needs the greatest attention. I mean, can really increasing the severity of the punishment eradicate all the crime in society? For example, if the levels of if the stand of level of I mean sorry if the living standards of people is indeed very low, if there is no economic development, then definitely there would be things like robbery, theft, there would be such kind of corruption. Then what is the long term solution? The long term solution increasing the severity of punishment, or rather working on those solutions which can eliminate the problem from its very root? Looking at so this is where the answer comes. Looking at the questions raised above, I get a feeling that just as, and this is a very, very good example given by the person. He says, I get a feeling that just as distributing money among the poor will not eradicate poverty, so increasing the severity of the punishments may not reduce crime in any society. Of course, if you go and ask an economist, can we remove poverty? Can we eradicate poverty by distributing money? So all the rich people will come and they will start distributing their surplus money amongst the poor. And will that eradicate poverty? To eradicate poverty, economists would suggest economic measures and solutions that would eradicate poverty from its very root. Similarly, to reduce crime, social scientists and psychologists would not recommend severe punishments. Instead, they too would wish to nip a thing like crime right in the bud. So, you must go to the root cause of a problem. And just as the root cause of poverty is the economic situation of a particular country, similarly, the root cause of any crime is the social situation of that country, the education system of that country, the beliefs, the values, the traditions of that country. And only by addressing those things you can eradicate a thing like crime and poverty. So severity of punishments might is totally an illogical approach, and this particular paragraph shows it draws parallel between poverty and crime. And he says the way poverty can be reduced by getting economists on the panel, similarly crime can be reduced by getting psychologists, scientists, education institutions, and many other things on a single platform. According to me, if I were a part of that discussion, I would say that people commit crime in a rage of passion, or because of mental instability, or because of their disturbed childhood, or because of some reason or circumstance that is not entirely in their control. So people don't commit crime just because they want to commit crime. They love committing crime. They commit crime because they are in a rage of passion, which makes them entirely helpless, or because they are mentally unstable, for which they cannot be blamed, or because they have disturbed childhood, their social upbringing has been such that they cannot help committing crime, or because of some reason or circumstance that is not entirely in their hands. The practical way to reduce crime would be by creating a civilized social environment in which we are able to sublimate. Sublimate basically means transform the destructive tendencies of children or of adults. And this is the long term solution, a better solution, far better than increasing the severity of punishments. So you must create a society, you must create an environment, you must address the problem right at its root. By simply increasing the severity of the punishments is not going to solve the problem. We must provide the right sort of education, a kind of education that focuses not only on the mental development of the children, but also on their moral, emotional, and spiritual development. So when you start addressing the problem at its very root, you start addressing the whole issue. You start resolving the problem. This kind of education would make better citizens, citizens who are responsible not only for themselves but also for people around them. We must ensure that parents are counseled on how to raise children such that there is a harmonious development of the mind, body, and spirit. So, if you really want to address the problem, you must get the schools, the institutions, the parents, society. You must get these economists, you must get the government, and they must come together and say why exactly what is wrong here. After all, children don't spend time just in schools. Much of their time is spent with parents whom they imitate and whose habits they start picking unconsciously from a very young age. So parents with whom children spend most of their time, they have a great impact on children. So if children have the tendency to commit crime, it is because of the parents, their upbringing, and also because of the nature of the parents. So what happens inside the house is equally important. I believe that crime is a social phenomenon, and no social phenomenon can be reduced or eradicated just by one entity or by one extreme step. To reduce crime, not only there must be a just law in place, but also there should be contribution from each and every institution, such as the media and the corporate, the schools, who must come together and put in their best efforts to wipe out the malaise. So the author says basically that crime is a social phenomena. It stems from certain factors, and you must study those factors, you must learn those factors. Simply increasing the severity of the punishment might be a very direct way of addressing the problem, but it will not root the problem from its very root, because you haven't learned the causes of the problem. So it's a very good topic, and through this topic we get to know whether you are thinking analytically or not. Are you able to address problem in the right way or not? Because we as invigilators, we want to see that what kind of decision making skills the candidates have. And if you simply jump to a conclusion that this is the best way of doing something without looking at the alternatives, then you may not be a good manager or a good leader. So this was a very, very good discussion, and we have discussed almost many, many good points. And such points you must bring out in the group discussion in which you are participating.